I'd like to call to order the Charter Township of Chesterfield regular township board meeting for Tuesday, June 25th, 2024 to order at 7 p.m. Could we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Clerk Berry, could you call the roll?
Supervisor Kersten.
Here.
Treasurer Elliott. Here. Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Joseph.
Here.
Trustee Demink.
Here.
Trustee Vosberg. Here. Clerk Berry is here.
Item 4, approval of agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Trustee Vosberg. Clerk Berry.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph. Aye. Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott. Aye. Supervisor Kersten.
Aye. Item 5, presentations. There are no presentations scheduled tonight. Item 6, department reports. We'll start out with Director Vanison, Parks and Rec, and Seniors.
Hi, good evening. In the news recently, there have been several acts of violence in very public spaces in parks around the state. It's deserving of our attention, so I would like to highlight a couple of those. There have been 2 isolated shootings in the past month, May 27th, Rotary Park in Lansing, and on June 15th at the Brooklands Plaza splash pad in Rochester Hills. In this time of profound sorrow, our hearts go out to the victims, their family, the Parks and Recreation staff, and the surrounding communities. Public parks are spaces where the community should feel safe to come together with their friends and family, where amenities can be enjoyed for the parks that we offer in our township. When these spaces are disrupted by senseless acts, it takes work to put the pieces back together. Working together with Chesterfield Public Safety, our Parks and Recreation Department, including our seasonal park staff, have reviewed our emergency procedures and have those in place to prepare for any unexpected incidents. We remind our community and staff to report any unusual activity they see in these public park spaces to the police department directly. We will never have all the answers we need to understand and heal from tragic events like these shootings in our surrounding counties. It's important to come together across borders to raise up the victims and their loved ones. For our community to many more, let us offer our deepest sympathies, extend our hands in solidarity as the entire state navigates through this difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Trustee Demink.
Just a couple quick comments from Parks and Rec. Open positions remain on multiple township commissions, including Parks and Rec Commission and the newly reestablished Beautification Commission and Tree Board. Residents interested in serving on this commission are encouraged to fill out an application form on the website. Thank you. Trustee Joseph is going to make the things from our little meeting yesterday with the senior supervisor.
Okay. Trustee Joseph, you want to fill in?
Sure, thank you. We had our first senior advisory committee meeting yesterday. It was really an informational meeting. There was some updates provided to those in attendance, and really just an open mic kind of forum. I think the post-discussion Trustee Demink and I had, along with the supervisor, it was generally, I think, received as a very good meeting in that people had an opportunity to speak. We were kind of surprised by a few issues. There were some things that came out that I know Trustee Demink and I were unaware of, which I was grateful for those in attendance who had shared their experience. There's a number, for those that aren't familiar with the situation. We have obviously building renovations and an election, and it's caused us to have to sort of relocate our senior activities. And there's been, at previous board meetings, a lot of frustration with how the transition has went. And I think one of the things we identified was a lot of misinformation. Unfortunately, there's a lot of information that is just not accurate that people thought were, fact. And so coming forward and expressing that, together with our Ms. Vanderson, our director. We were able to, one, hear areas of concern and really open a forum for our board to have a direct access to the seniors. And there's a tremendous amount of programming, and there are a lot of really positive things going on. But the message that I took away was that there was maybe a sense of maybe not the appropriate value had been applied, and people were a little disappointed about communication maybe and how things were transitioned. So I think the overall goal now is we heard from a lot of volunteers who are interested in being on the panel, and we will assemble I think roughly a 5-member panel together with Trustee DeMink and the supervisor to meet monthly. But the conversations that we've had, Trustee DeMink and I, we know that there are a lot of seniors who really have a lot to say, and we want to hear from them, but they weren't necessarily comfortable in a more formal public setting, going to a podium and expressing themselves. So just spending some time at the senior center through the week at the various activities, classes, and talking with our seniors is something that Trustee DeMink and I are kind of working out, and we want to hear from our seniors on what can be improved there and what we can do differently, and then bring that back to the board if there's issues that require board action. We can be in a good position to bring that back and take appropriate actions as we move forward with this transition and the renovations here, but also long term, where are our seniors home? Where do they get to call home? And I'm real happy and proud to be on this committee and advocate for their interests and their longevity. So great first meeting in my opinion, and we opened some communication lines, and looking forward to our first monthly meeting with a full panel. Thank you.
Trustee Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you. Sunday's Michigan Log Cabin Day, and our log cabin over in the park will be open between 1 and 4 p.m. There'll also be historical recreations of events that occurred back in that time. So if you're available this Sunday at the Historical Society or its historical parking lot, or I'll get it out eventually, our historical park between 1 and 4 p.m. Thank you.
Treasurer Elliott.
Thank you. The summer taxes are ready, and they're at the printer, and they'll be mailed on Thursday. Payments can be accepted starting July 1st. You can easily make payments online or at any First State Bank location other than also here at the drop box, at the window, or over the phone. For no-cost online payments, use the drop-down arrow and choose the e-check option. There are other online payments also accepted, but there are fees that will apply to those. Those include credit and debit cards, PayPal, Apple Pay, Venmo, and Google Pay. So your summer tax bill will have a graph on the back. We'll actually have a pie chart on the back that will show you exactly which taxing authority, the total amount that was sent to them in 2023, and the percentage of the total dollar that was sent. And the summer tax bill, however, is not the total bill for the year. The summer tax bill includes the 3 school districts, 100% of tax collection for L'Anse Creuse, 50% of the tax collection for New Haven, 50% for Anchor Bay. And also, you'll see Macomb Community College, Macomb Intermediate School District, the State Education, and Macomb County Operating. Thank you.
Just some quick comments from me. As Trustee Joseph and DeMink has indicated, the Citizens Town Hall Committee being formed. That was a great kickoff yesterday, very insightful, and we'll continue that. We're engaging in conversations continuously with SMART. Their agreement will be coming to the board, and hopefully we're going to present some amendments to them in regards to service and how they provide service here to the township to some of the riders. We are also working with recent floods and heavy rains again. We have, again, discussed with the county departments some of our concerns. Not only that, along with DTE. We lost power in certain areas of the township for an extended period of time, which is also problematic, particularly in heavy rains. Our 2025 budget is in process. We are on track. The time schedule is in our existing budget, and we are also finishing the audit. The audit should be presented from Platt Moran here at the next board meeting. That also, very positive audit, and will put us in a good position. And at the recommendation of a local reporter some time ago, we've been working on Citizens Government Academy that the residents can join us in, and we continue to develop this program, and it helps describe particularly how a township is managed, what the township's responsibilities are, and the way government runs day to day here in the township. So hope to roll that out late summer, early fall, and we'll continue to work on that. Clerk Berry, did you have?
Thank you. I appreciate that. I know you're anxious to share all of that. This is great information. With regards to the Clerk and Elections Department, there's a lot to update the board on. First and foremost, I do want to open up with, some of you may be aware, it hit all the local media as well as the New York Post, MSNBC picked it up, and a couple of other national outlets regarding a lawsuit that I was a party to, or party of. I was a plaintiff on a lawsuit along with a couple of other stakeholders in suing Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson for her direction to election officials on signature verification. And the basic gist of it, and you can read any one of the articles that was published, but the general gist of it was that the Secretary of State had been advising election administrators, myself and all of the other 1,600 of us throughout the state, that signature verification that signatures were to be presumed valid. And myself and many others felt that that was in conflict with the Constitution and what the constitutional language and statutory language says. And so therefore in March we filed suit against the Secretary of State, and Judge Yates from the Court of Claims agreed with us, sided with us, and that decision just came out. And the reason I bring it up is that I just want the board to be aware that there were no township funds used for that, no public funds used for that. That was all publicly funded. And my participation was as an individual clerk who saw a violation of the Constitution and was going to be a part of fixing it. So there was nothing that the township was involved in, nor were there any resources at all on behalf of, from the township that were used in that. So absentee ballots were received in our office last week. We began processing those. We are still continuing to do that. We have almost 8,000 of them now that will be going out in the first wave. That is all the permanent ballot folks who have requested a permanent ballot to be on the permanent ballot list, as well as any other absentee ballot applications that we have received outside of that. We anticipate mailing those ballots this Friday. We are doing everything we can to make sure they are properly prepared and ready to go to the post office on Friday. For those who have requested an absentee ballot, if you do not receive the absentee ballot you've requested by the end of next week, please contact the clerk's office and we will be happy to help you locate that ballot. You can also go onto the Secretary of State's website, Michigan Voter Information Center, and you can track your absentee ballot. We also have a link to that on our website, on our webpage rather, as well on the elections page. So absentee ballots will be available in the clerk's office for those who would like to come into the clerk's office to pick up an absentee ballot. Those will be available beginning on Thursday, the 27th. So this Thursday, we will have those available in our office for those individuals who are interested in receiving an absentee ballot who have not already requested one. Last and not least, we are working with Macomb County Clerk Anthony Forlini in his office to put together another event. It will be similar to our open house event that we held earlier this year for elections. This one specifically is going to be focused on the early voting process and encouraging individuals to come out and vote early, making them aware of where our early voting center is located, which is at Sugarbush Elementary, also known as our community center, where our early voting will take place. And so we are working with the county clerk's office in his initiative to make people aware of their opportunity to vote early and how that is to be takes place in Chesterfield. Thank you.
Item 7, public comments. Mic is open. Public comments on agenda items only. There's a 3-minute time limit. If you would please state your name so we can keep track. It is not required. Podium is open.
There we go, thank you. Good evening, Chesterfield Board. My name is Scott Ogney. I'm an election whistleblower from Jackson, Michigan, and I just wanted to speak on the agenda, and I wanted to compliment the Chesterfield Township Clerk on her candor and courage in addressing at least one major issue with regards to elections. And I think she needs to be commended for her courage, and I thank you as a resident from the city of Jackson. Thank you.
Apparently I left my glasses someplace. Hopefully I can make it through here. I've got some comments on item G, which is the spending of the $319,000 remaining of the American Rescue Plan funds. Problem I have, the spending you're doing, you're looking at putting more money into Parks and Recreation. Most of the money that was spent so far has been put in Parks and Recreation. If you look at the guidelines that came along with the money in the American Rescue Plan, there are 4 of them basically. It says revenue replacement for government services lost to COVID, premium pay for essential services, overcome negative impact due to financial impact due to COVID, and investment in sewer and water and broadband infrastructure. You didn't meet any of those. None of them. Supervisor Kersten, with the backing of Treasurer Elliott, Trustee Vosberg, and Trustee DeMink, used the $4.8 million in ARPA money to replace a boat launch that will take about 40 years to recover the cost of it, engineering for a pass through the woods from Jefferson to Sugarbush, a 50-year-old school needing another $5 to $8 million just on HVAC and electrical upgrade, and none of these fell within the guidelines of ARPA. Now, during the same period, something you ignored, we had a flood last August. People suffered damage from the sanitary sewer backing up into the basement, which I did. There's a lot of drain pluggage that flooded the streets, flooded and eventually entered into houses. You had retention ponds that overflowed. You skipped looking at those for months. You deliberately ignored, didn't want to look at them, didn't tell anybody what was going on. You didn't have anybody from the water department saying, we're looking at this and we're going to get back to you. That whole period, it's been 10 months. The only thing we heard so far is what's happening to the DeMink pump station, which was in progress before all this happened, and it failed when it happened. I think you owe people this township an apology. You totally misused that money. You had no input from the public saying what they'd like it for, and it's wrong. And you still haven't done anything about saying what we're going to do to fix the problems with the sewer and the water. In the meantime, we're ending up with the biggest thing in our life is this school. Probably going to rename it the Brad Kersten School of Economic Comedy.
There we go. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Shane Sellers, and I live at 46310 Jasmine Court here in Chesterfield Township. I would actually like to briefly talk about the same item, item 10G, the allocation of ARPA funds, and my speech is going to be the exact opposite of what was just given. I see the proposals today that were prepared by Trustee Vosberg, and I want to thank her and the board for their dedication to properly spending these remaining funds. I personally understand the position you are in with these funds, as I serve on the L'Anse Creuse School Board, where we receive similar COVID relief funding. I am a big believer in trying to allocate those funds to projects that impact the greatest amount of residents in a positive way. And we use those, the majority of those COVID funds in Lance Cruz on purchasing student devices for every student in the district, which meant that every dollar spent went towards every student we serve. In this case, I think you have something similar. Your ARPA funds should go towards the biggest swath of residents you can impact. A light I would like to shine on is Pollard Park, which is currently in this proposal, a bridge over the Salt River, which I think is a wonderful idea. I think we should consider other necessary projects at Pollard as well. I personally grew up there playing in the Chesterfield Little League for years. It was a beautiful park and was well maintained and modern. Recently though, through no fault of anyone, any building or park begins to show its age and decay. I was just there last summer for a family member's Little League game, and you could tell it needed a facelift. The roof looked weathered and the serving windows were battered. I'm sure the numbers bear this out, but Pollard and Brandenburg parks are in a close competition for who draws the most residents on a warm summer day. I think a great use of the ARPA funds that will touch the greatest amount of residents with our many young families involved in our Parks and Rec programs at Pollard Park would be to give it a facelift it desperately needs so we can continue to offer our wonderful programming we have there that has made so many memories for young people in our township like myself. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Michelle Wilson Merriweather, and 52860 Muirfield Drive. I wanted to speak as well on item 10G, and I wanted to essentially piggyback off of Shane Sellers here and state that the money that is stated to be allocated for Connie Bowles Park, I am in 100% agreement. Residing again in the 24 and Gratiot area, we just have a recreational gap there for children and for families. And if you take a look at how it's growing and the families, the children and the families, they're really hungry for that recreational aspect. With myself and my team going door to door and speaking to various groups, and also a lot of the parents out there, and also very active on social media, the parks come up time and time again because it's that whole family needed atmosphere. Connie Bowles Park does need an update. And for the time being, I just love that is really prominent there. And I would ask, I know that we're also making plans for 25, but I ask that we continue to focus on what are some of the recreational aspects that we can do to support the families over that part of Chesterfield. Thanks.
Christopher Perrick, Chesterfield Township. I would like to comment on item G as well. I'm not going to agree with the last two speakers, but I will say that when we had the so-called town hall meeting, wasn't really a town hall, it turned out to be a special board meeting for the residents to be able to talk about what they wanted the remaining ARPA funds to be used for. None of these items were brought up. It was all about trying to fix failing infrastructure and trying to put in sidewalks, trying to improve things that are already broke in the city, not to put new items in place. Let's fix the things that are broken now, and this is not what the residents wanted based on the meetings that I attended or watched. So I'm against these items for agenda item G. Thank you.
Good evening, Janice Young. Item 10A and B, the appointments to the boards, the other various commissions. We have two candidates in the upcoming election that have recently been appointed to the zoning board, and there's one tonight that's going to be reappointed to the Parks and Rec Commission. I just have to wonder if this is a common practice in a township or a community where we have the same voice that will be potentially serving on multiple boards, especially when we already have like a board liaison that sits on those commissions. So if you in fact have somebody who already appointed to zoning board, let's say they get elected to the trustee position up here, do we then have another board member appointed, or does that person become the appointee? So I just want some clarification on how that works. Item 10D, the First Amendment to the waste hauler contract, that Ms. Garby emailed back and forth with Kevin Hustick. I have a copy of that email, and we were told that that amendment was confidential and private. And I don't know how a contract in the township could be private and confidential from its residents. So there was no other further elaboration given on that. I emailed the clerk and I asked for it, and it wasn't responded to or given to me. So there's an issue with that, and I think everybody should be very concerned about that. We should not be renewing a 5-year contract with a contractor we have no experience with. I've read good and bad things about them. Maybe we should do a 1-year extension with them just to get us through till we can get it rebid. There's got to be a better answer than saying it's private and confidential and just jamming it down our throats. Item 10E, the outfitting of the transit van. There are numerous options listed to be installed at a later date on the quote. Are there any intentions of having those installed? There are no prices next to the options like there is in item 10F. My concern is that these options can or will be installed at a later date in smaller increments that will be under the $5,000 APO threshold for board approval. What assurances do the residents have that that won't happen? Item 10G is the top popular one. Remaining ARPA funds. This board has managed to spend almost the full $4.9 million on Parks and Rec. It's very disappointing. I know everybody loves Parks and Rec. It's a fun thing to talk about, fun thing to do. I find it hard to believe that we really couldn't find a better use for those funds. And we had the special meeting, and you heard from the residents that showed up for that. And Parks and Rec were not a major topic for them. We spent $35,000 on those floating docks. We didn't use ARPA money for that. You made us pay for those floating docks. And they were supposed to be moved to other parks. They've yet to be moved out of Brandenburg Park. They're supposed to be also for kayaking. I asked a resident. She said you cannot kayak from those floating docks. But we were sold that that was an option for them. I think the only time they were actually used was for the Bass Festival. It just really seems to me that our Parks and Rec is just hemorrhaging money. So I want to know when's going to be enough on that. We need to get other things taken care of. Thank you.
John Speaka, Chesterfield Township. Just looking at the bill run for starters. After 2 weeks ago, I was given assurances by Ms. Garby on the bill run that any item on the bill run would have a name associated with it. And here we are again, under the supervisor's office. Brad, I don't know if it was you that went to the chamber for Sterling Heights. There's no name on it. So it's not a hard task to put a name on any allocated tax money that's used, so the residents know who went and who didn't go. The other thing that's disturbing to me, again, is, I agree with Ms. Young on the ARPA money. The ARPA money, we had $4.8 million of the ARPA money allocated to the township, and it's almost all of it's gone to Parks and Recs. I mean, none of it's gone to the infrastructure of the sewer. We had a meeting yesterday with the seniors. Yeah, you guys purchased that dilapidated 50-year-old building that I would have never done. That needs anywhere between $10 and $13 million in repairs. The seniors asked for chairs. There's needs that they needed. There's a hole in the floor in the auditorium that we're in. That's where the money should be spent. I don't see anything here for the seniors. So I know you guys, formed a senior committee, but that only started after a couple of the seniors came and complained and voiced their complaint. Plus, it's an election year. We're not stupid. So some of that money should be allocated to the seniors and take care of their needs immediately. They can't use the toilets over there. The floors are not comfortable, and they need chairs. Thank you.
James Clock, 32830 Sutton. I'd like to speak to you on agenda item G. same as everybody else. We're spending money for Parks and Rec, $100,000 for engineering for a bridge over the Salt River. This is in that park just north of the baseball fields. Has any one of you been down in there? I got $1 here. I'll bet you $1. None of you have been down in there physically, have you? No. You've been down there. You climbed 12 feet down into that hole. You did. Well, okay, I owe you $1, and I'll bring it up to you in a minute. That is ridiculous. You spend $100,000. You got a drain that runs into those 30-some acres, 38 acres. You got a river that runs through there. I was there in February. I walked that whole lot in February. It's swamp. It's bramble bush. There's nothing there for nature lovers to go look at or see. You want to call it a park, you can call it a park, but it's nothing but a mud hole in the ground. The farmers can't even use it. That's why they sold it to you. They can't get back there and plow it and use it. It's a useless piece of land. And you want to spend $100,000 for engineering, you probably spend another $500,000 to build the bridge and a bunch of other bridges over that, because that river meanders back and forth through that property, and so does that drain. You people are wasting money, wasting money, wasting money. There's other things you could use it for. You know that. You know, we come up here time and time again, week after week, month after month, and it's the same thing. You guys got your minds made up ahead of time. We're starting to get tired of telling you. You know, I mean, I'm not trying to fight with you. I'm just trying to get you to do what's right, what the people need. Not what you want, not what you think they need, what they need. Thank you.
Mike Rayner, Jack Grove Lane. I really have to start talking first because I get so worked up by the time I listen to everybody. I'm getting the best of me here. Actually, most of my comments will follow later. But they have to do with 10G. 10G, all about Parks and Recreation. Now, I was a runner for many years. All my grandkids play sports. I love trees and flowers. But, you know, there are other needs. And I'm surprised that we don't really even talk about our businesses here. Usually it's all about our businesses and getting money and all that stuff. Actually, what I'm going to talk about later is about the need for, you know, sidewalks. Sidewalks were mentioned a time or two. I'm going to talk about the need for sidewalks leading up to bus stops that are needed for badly needed employees over on Russell Schmidt Street that don't pay anything because, well, for whatever reason, who knows why. But anyway, we need to get proper transportation for those employees. And later on, you'll find out more about an actual plan that is in order for that. So we'll talk in more detail about that. But I think $319,000 just on item G here, which is all for kayaks and all that stuff, I think is a very poor use of our money. So I'll talk more later about the better use of the money. But I do want to thank the township and the participants for the senior meeting that we had the other night. What was astounding was there's no time in it. You know, we could just kind of talk, and there was even a few answers, and it was like, holy cow, just like a Q&A. So it would be nice to see that more often. Thank you.
Any more comments? Any more comments from the public? Move on to item 8, the consent agenda. Clerk Berry.
All items under the consent agenda are considered routine by the board and will be enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of these items. If discussion of any item is required by a board member, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of June 11th, 2024. B, approval of the payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department.
Is there a motion to approve the consent?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Motion by trustee Domingue, supported by treasurer Elliott. Discussion? Discussion? Clerk Berry, call the roll.
Trustee Domingue?
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott?
Aye.
Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
Trustee Joseph? Trustee Vosberg? Supervisor Kersten?
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Item 9, public hearing. There is no public hearing scheduled tonight. Item 10, the regular agenda. Item 10A, Clerk Berry.
10A is a recommendation by Supervisor Kersten to reappoint Alan Christ to the Parks and Recreation Commission with a term ending June 1st, 2027.
So moved.
Motion
Support.
by trustee Joseph, supported by treasurer Elliott. Director Vanison, go ahead. I didn't see Mr. Christ tonight.
He is here, yep. So
Where's he at?
Mr. Christ is here, and
Oh.
I would like to give special recognition. He is our longest-standing commission member on the Parks and Recreation Commission.
I just want to say thanks for the consideration. I've been a member since '98, so going on 26 years now. I enjoy being on Parks and Rec. I love helping out and giving back. This is kind of a cool way to give back, and I appreciate the support from all the commissioners. David, you and I served together for quite a while, and I feel our board's always been very supportive of Parks and Rec, so I just want to say thanks.
Thank you. Comments from the board? Trustee Joseph?
Yeah, I appreciate the willingness to serve, Alan. You, when I arrived on the Parks and Rec Commission over 20 years ago, you were one of the senior members then. And what I was struck by when I first met you was the amount of time that you put in to Parks and Rec, including a fishing event where you would take kids that had zero experience and spend the entire day, showing them how to fish, and the amount of time that you donate, not just in the meetings and in the discussions, but in the actual hands-on with programming, and the amount of time that you put in. I appreciate you very much, and for the comment regarding a last-minute appointment, there's nothing last-minute about an appointment for a guy that's been around for 26 years, and I realize that it's campaign season, and so we're going to get things like I'm not sure if this is an appropriate. It is entirely appropriate. We'd be in a deficit without you at Parks and Rec, and I say that as a fellow trustee candidate. You're good for this township, and I appreciate the work that you do. There's really nothing political about you, never has been, and thanks for your service to the township, and thanks for your commitment to Parks and Rec.
Treasurer Elliott.
I want to thank you, Alan, for the years of dedication and service to the township, and you've been an asset. So many kids learning to appreciate the lake and the waters and the fish and everything. It wouldn't be the same without you. Thank you.
Trustee Domingue?
Yes, Alan, thanks for being on Parks Rec for the 2 terms that I've served since I've been around the board. It's been great working with you, and especially for your dedication to the fish program. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chris, there's nothing more that needs to be said. Thank you very much for your time and efforts. We have a motion by trustee Joseph, supported by treasurer Elliott, to approve the appointment. 10A. Clerk Berry?
Trustee Joseph?
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott?
Aye.
Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
Trustee Domingue?
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg?
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten?
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Item 10B.
Item 10B is a recommendation by Supervisor Kersten to reappoint Lisa Minter, Anthony Bonk, and Shaun Caplis to the Beautification Commission and Tree Board with a term ending July 1st, 2027.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Domingue.
Second.
Supported by clerk Berry. Michelle?
I do just want to give a little bit of commentary on this because these names might seem familiar. We did just add them to the Beautification Board. The way that board works is we are refilling existing terms, and so they took the last spot of an existing term. They are now ready for renewal for the next term, but so far so good. We're happy with their service.
Thank you. Any comments for the board? Trustee Joseph?
Yeah, I don't know all three candidates, but I did want to point out Ms. Mittner was present at our senior meeting yesterday, and one of the comments that she made to me after the meeting was, sometimes we forget how much our community means to us, and she's dealt with some real tragedies in her life and finds comfort in the senior center and her engagement with the Beautification Commission, and she refers to it as her family, and she gets a tremendous amount of support, and her story is not unique. So, again, knowing her and knowing firsthand the tragedy that she's, had to suffer through, and to see her in such a positive space, giving back to her community and doing it in a way that she feels like she's getting more than she gives is really, it was a great conversation with her, and I'm glad that she's found time to continue her volunteer work with the Beautification Commission. So, thank you.
Thank you. For the comments from the board, I have a motion by Trustee Demink, supported by Clerk Berry, to approve the appointments. Clerk Berry.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye. Item 10C.
Item 10C is to approve a request by the Anchor Bay Chamber of Commerce to put on a fireworks display at the Cheers to Chesterfield event held at Brandenburg Park on Friday, July 26, 2024.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Clerk Berry, supported by Supervisor Kersten. Director Bassett.
So just real quickly, from the public safety, both the police department and fire department has reviewed this item, and we're recommending approval.
Thank you. Lisa, you want to make any comments?
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to say on behalf of the Anchor Bay Chamber, we appreciate the partnership with Chesterfield Township for the Cheers at Chesterfield event. The company that we are working with is American Fireworks, which is the same company that we hired last year for this event, and also the same company that does the fireworks for the Bay Rama Fish Fly Festival.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Trustee Joseph.
Do we know where the who donated the funds for the fireworks? Do we know?
So the fireworks are sponsored by JARS.
Oh, got it. Thank you.
They also sponsored last year.
Thank you. Further questions? I have a motion by Clerk Berry, supported by Supervisor Kersten, to approve item 10C. Clerk Berry.
Clerk Berry, aye. Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Item 10D.
Item 10D is the assignment of GFL single waste hauler contract to consider approval of an assignment of the existing 2024 through 2028 single waste hauler contract between Chesterfield Township and GFL to Priority Waste LLC, and to approve the proposed First Amendment approving an assignment of the GFL contract to Priority Waste LLC.
Just some quick background. Attorney Siebert and Councilor Anderson have been involved in this, and we've received some emails that we exchanged with the board. This is an assignment of the existing contract. There is no increase in pricing. Service is intended to remain the same, and we will receive the same level of service that we get from GFL, if not better. So we have a great relationship with both of them. Mr. Hayuma, I will open the floor to you.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Vincent Hoyumpa, attorney. I'm on behalf of Priority Waste. I'm the Chief of Staff and General Counsel for the company. I'm a founder, co-owner of the business. We started in 2018. Roughly in April of this year, Green for Life, your current provider, approached Todd Stamper, the CEO of Priority Waste, to acquire various residential assets that GFL had in the Metro Detroit market. Specifically, GFL was making the decision to divest its residential assets in Southeast Michigan. So all of their municipal contracts and trucks, as well as employees, servicing approximately 74 communities in Macomb, Oakland, Wayne, Genesee, Washtenaw, and Livingston counties, they were looking to divest itself of those assets. They had approached Priority Waste. We have a pretty substantial presence already in Macomb County, We have been recently awarded, for example, Sterling Heights. We have half of Detroit. So it was a natural fit for us. So on May 15th, we executed a purchase agreement, which we are scheduled to close on that on June 29th. Friday is June 28th. It's going to be held in escrow so that GFL can do various cleanup on various communities on June 29th. But basically, this is an assignment of the contract. We are looking to step in the shoes of GFL. We are acquiring their trucks. We are hiring their employees. We are keeping the same processes. We have purchased their Sterling Heights yard, where those trucks are currently based. We have already well-established disposal agreements for trash, recycling, as well as the yard waste. So in this transition, I would expect nothing but overall improvement in the service that is going to be provided to the residents of Chesterfield Township. We're a young company. We're well-backed by various private equity funds, as well as initial funding from the initial founders, which have been Todd Stamper, Michael Atchison, and myself. And so we've been very successful over the last 5 years in servicing. Prior to this acquisition, we've been awarded 43 communities throughout Michigan, as well as Indianapolis, the largest of which are the city of Detroit, Sterling Heights, the cities of Flint, Saginaw, so on and so forth. So we're well experienced in this line of work, and we're excited to become a service provider to this community. So if anybody on the board has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any of those.
I'll open it up to the board. Any questions from the board? Just again, some further background. When this news broke, obviously this impacted several communities in Macomb County, not only us, but neighboring communities. Mr. Stamper reached out almost immediately. I went and did meet with him, and then immediately had discussions with Mr. Siebert, and included Chris Anderson and Mr. Hayumpa. So the emails that you have in your file, and again, we made it very clear that they were assuming and we were assigning the existing contract, which pricing stays the same. The only inconvenience I think that we are going to experience, should this be approved, is the billing changeover, which will occur in July. After July 1st, they have already reached out to us, which we will begin to advertise, again, if this is approved. And we'll do everything we can to partner with them. I think Priority is a reputable company. They've got great presence, and I really hope that this is approved, and we'll continue a great relationship with them and make this work. So I'll open it up to the floor. Clerk Berry?
Mr. Supervisor, not so much a question, because I'm very familiar with the contract. I'm also familiar with Priority Waste, and if it's not terribly out of order, I know we've already started a conversation already, but I'd like to make a motion to approve the assignment of the existing 2024-2028 single waste hauler contract between Chesterfield Township and GFL to Priority Waste LLC, and approve the proposed First Amendment approving the assignment.
There's a motion by Clerk Berry and is supported by Supervisor Kersten, if none other.
I have a question.
Trustee Domingue.
To Priority, so people who just paid a recent GFL bill in June.
Yes.
I'm one of them. So it's for July and August.
They will be receiving that full credit. We have acquired all of their accounts receivable.
Okay.
So there's going to be the residents will have no change whatsoever.
But on the next billing cycle, it'll be indicated from a bill from Priority. Is that
That's
my
correct.
Okay.
As a practical matter, the residents will be able to continue their whatever way form they were paying all the way through July 15th. If they were to paying online, as an example, that the GFL will be maintaining that website and that portal through July 15th, after which time Priorities portal will be in place, and directions will be given to whoever wishes to pay as to how to do that.
Okay, that answers. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Trustee Joseph.
Yeah, mine was more of a comment. During the time that the agenda was published, we received requests from residents. The reason I would never forward correspondence from the attorney that's marked privileged and confidential. And the reason that I understood it to be privileged and confidential is because it's a draft until such time that the board approves it. The contract, of course, will be made public once the board approves it, but as I understood the contract, and appreciate any direction if I got it wrong, the decision with GFL to sell their assets, residential assets, to Priority could have resulted in us saying, well, this is a breach of contract and we can go out to bid. But the reality is, when we put it out to bid last year, we only had a very limited number of vendors capable of providing this service. It's not as if we have the ability to go out and bring in a number of vendors and be able to seamlessly handle resident collection in such a tight time frame. So the partnership and the work, the collaboration between Priority and GFL to ensure that there's a seamless transition is much appreciated, because in other communities where Priority has just won an outright bid, those transitions didn't go so well. In fact, there were examples in municipalities where the Priority team was left with weeks of trash, and literally cities were piling up big accounts. So when it was first announced, I thought this could be disastrous in that if GFL just sort of stops picking up, and that didn't happen. And the work that's been done to make sure that all of the issues involving everything from cans to how to pay my bill and what happens if I've already paid my bill have been really worked out. And what was initially a really ominous, announcement that GFL was ending operations in the residential space turned out to be, and I appreciate all the work that's been done because it's sensitive, and residents initially want answers, and we couldn't really give a lot of answers because a lot of this had to be worked out with the attorneys. These are big contracts with a lot of details, and so I would never withhold information from a resident that asks me for information, with the exception of something that comes from our attorney that is marked privileged and confidential. So again, I appreciate all the work that was done. I know our legal team has been working very, very hard to make sure that the residents are safeguarded, and I think we've done a good job here. So thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Vosper.
Thank you. A question to the Priority representative. The contract, this is I'm just saying, the contract, basically, the contract we have with GFL, you are accepting completely,
Yes, ma'am.
all elements of it. And I served on the Solid Waste Committee for a number of years, and familiar with various terms of contracts and different ways of doing things. The GFL way of doing things is probably a little bit, some of it is a different business model than what you have. So you're going to continue honoring the parts of the contract that are maybe different than what you would have had, that you have with other communities, but we still have here, such as billing.
Absolutely.
Those kinds of things.
By virtue of the assignment, you can look at this as it's the same team, all right, but they're putting on different uniforms. So all of the rules of the game remain the same. So whatever is in your contract, we will be honoring that contract to the letter.
Great. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. A couple of questions that I have. So you're going to begin service on Monday, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. And then the frequently asked question piece that's been shared with the board, will you be mailing that out to residents by any chance?
Our plan is to mail it with the first set of bills that go out to the residents.
Okay.
Because again, and the reason I say that is there's not a change. The only thing that's being changed at this point is the name on the trucks. All right, you have the same vehicles, you have the same personnel. So the normal learning curve that any new hauler has for a city when they're awarded a new contract doesn't exist because it's the same personnel, all right? The person who picked up the garbage this past Monday is likely the same person that's going to be picking up your garbage this coming Monday.
I have one more question. So I'm the treasurer,
Yes,
and most of the problems, complaints, concerns, and questions come through my department. GFL has always had a direct representative that we could contact to kind of get directly to some of these problems and get back with the residents. Could you also be providing that to our department?
Absolutely. We
Okay.
have a very we have a direct system where we have what we call logistic driver coordinators that work directly with the municipality. Those are individuals that use our technology to see where our trucks are at all time and are very familiar with the various contracts. Now, as it relates to financial issues, that would go to our finance department as an example. But yes, we absolutely will have direct contact so that any person can get a hold of the correct person. I can say, all right, that we live answer all of our calls. There's no phone system. So, you know, we handle, let's call it 1,000 calls a week, of which most of those calls are, you know, we didn't pick up the garbage. And that we've been able to show because we have cameras on our trucks. We have 6 cameras on our trucks, all right? So the majority of the calls are people that unfortunately didn't put their garbage out on time because we are very prompt. We start typically right at 7 a.m. and we want to get our guys home prior to 7 p.m. so that they have their families. You know, it's not our place to try to make our employees work for 15, 16 hours. So we try to be very efficient with what we do. So with all of our communities, and I believe Chesterfield would be no different, the expectation is for all residents to have their garbage out prior to 7 a.m. So you can expect that you could be one of the first people that we pick up at 7 a.m. Now, as people are learning routes, we do go back, but you know, at later points we have to remind people, you know, assuming that we were going to be there at 9 or 10 or 11 a.m., you can't assume that because we will get better as the technology that we're putting in all of the trucks that we're acquiring from GFL, as we've trained those GFL drivers into the priority culture of how we put the customer first and how we do things very safely and efficiently, that will change your times, all right? So we're gonna pick up your garbage same day as you would expect, but those times may change because we will get better with the service.
Sorry. So with that being said, I've seen your facilities. They're very impressive, and I've taken a tour on them. Thank you for allowing me to do that. Also, Treasury will keep track of every phone call and every touch if people come to the counter, and then make sure and get that to the direct contact so that we can follow up and make sure that any concerns or any issues are addressed directly. Okay? Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
Clerk Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Not so much a question, I just, I'm just gonna disagree with Mr. Hayampa just a little bit in that he's saying that, you know, nothing's gonna change, everything's gonna stay the same. My experience with everyone I know who's dealt with priority waste, my expectation is their customer service is so far superior to what GFL's ever was that I expect that it's actually going to be a much better experience and a much better customer service related, and he kind of alluded to that. They have a way of approaching service delivery that is really unheard of in their industry, and I'm very familiar with that. So my expectation, Mr. Helm, is that our residents are going to be very, very satisfied with the service they're going to receive from Priority Waste. So maybe a lot of the same players, but I know that the management team will be different, and I think they're going to be very, very happy with the results and what they see from Priority Waste, and that's why I did not hesitate to assign for this contract assignment.
Thank you, Clerk Barry.
Any further comments? Thank you, sir. I have a motion by Clerk Barry, supported by Supervisor Kersten, to approve the assignment. Clerk Barry.
Clerk Barry, aye. Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Thank you, sir. And again, we'll start helping you advertise this and get it out on our public sites. Thank you. Item 10E.
Item 10E is to approve a request by Department of Public Services to proceed with outfitting of the 2023 Ford Transit van in the amount of $11,587 from STE Truck.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by trustee Domingue,
Support.
supported by trustee Vosberg. Mr. Kosier?
Yes, this is the new meter van that was approved for lease back in December 19th of 2023. We finally taken delivery and have had our crew go through the van, kind of take a look at it, and establish an initial kind of wish list of what they'd like. That is why on there is some of the options that were moved to later to be installed, because those are the ones that we as management took a look at the quote, kind of said, we don't need these items, let's take it off of there to kind of bring down the price there and reduce any unnecessary cost on the vehicle. But this would provide a bulkhead for the van. It would provide storage and shelving for all our safe transportation of tools, meters, and hardware, and also a workbench. This is something we don't have in our current vans that we use right now, just given the height. That guys can't stand back there, but these new taller vans will give them room to be able to stand back there, and we can make meter repairs right in the field rather than having to bring the meter back to our shop, make the repair, go back out to the field. So it will be able to help with service for our residents as well.
Thank you. Question on the board? I have a motion by trustee Domingue, supported by trustee Vosberg, to approve item 10E. Clerk Berry.
Trustee Domingue.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph. Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Clerk Berry. Aye.
Item 10F, when you're ready.
Item 10F is to approve a request by the Department of Public Services to proceed with repairs to the 2021 Ford F-750 dump truck in the amount of $18,235 from STE Truck.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Domingue. Supported by trustee Vosberg. Mr. Kosier again.
This truck was damaged during operations earlier this year, and after kind of looking at some of the options, we have decided to go ahead and replace the plow on this truck. As stated, we do use it for performing grading on gravel roads, on the approved SADs that we do have, and then also for plowing snow and emergencies in the winter. So the plow is a useful tool on the truck.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Trustee Domingue.
This is the belly blade is so-called, correct, Paul?
Yes, this is the underbelly blade. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
No further questions. I have a motion by trustee Domingue, supported by trustee Vosberg, to approve item 10F. Clerk Berry.
Trustee Domingue.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Clerk Berry. Aye.
Item 10G.
Item 10G is to approve a recommendation for the Township Board to allocate the following ARPA funds: Municipal Office Grounds, Pedestrian Bridge Improvements, $44,000. Brandenburg Park, ADA Kayak Launch, $25,000. Pollard Park, Engineering Fees to construct bridge over Salt River, $100,000. Weber Paddle Park, Easy Deck for improved kayak launch, $25,000. Salt River Nature Preserve, ADA Kayak Launch, $25,000. Engineering and Design for Connie Bowles Park, $100,000, in a total amount of $319,000.
I'd like to make a motion to approve item G with the removal of the Pollard Park engineering fees to construct the bridge over the Salt River at $100,000, which would reduce the total amount to $219,000.
Support.
Was that trustee Anderson?
No, we're leaving Connie Bowles.
A motion by trustee Domingue, supported by trustee Anderson, or Joseph, I'm sorry. Just again, some further discussion on this. The reason this is on here, if you go back a couple of meetings, it asked respective department heads and electeds to create a list of what we would like to see. And this list came to the board as an agenda item, and it doesn't have to be in its entirety. There can be further discussion on this, and we can even go in a different direction. The problem we are running up against is ARPA funds, which we are completely in compliance with on all of our previous requests, and where we're at now. The issue that we're running up against is we're on the clock. Money has to be committed by the end of this year. Now, committed, when you talk to either the auditors or our federal partners, it's they want to see, I'm going to use this term, allocation or direction that you're going with. So again, the discussion here tonight on these items, we can alter, we can change. It's just to get it on the agenda for further discussion and commit the funds prior to the end of the year. With that being said, Treasurer Elliott, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Committed meaning we have to have signed contracts by the end of the year, which means that things that we had to go out to bid would be not realistic.
That is correct.
So lowering that, we'll have $325,127.49 left in the fund. We know that through some discussion with the Public Safety Department, they have some items that they're going to need on their budget. So that's where I'd like to see some more money spent.
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Demink. The format for, the remaining ARPA money, I thought it was a great idea to send out to the department heads and have them, itemize areas that they thought were, important. There really are a tremendous amount of projects that could be, this money could be used for. At our monthly public safety meeting, we had a discussion. Probably the most modest request from any department was the Public Safety Department asking for roughly $100,000 for items that they trimmed out of their redesign for budget constraints. So they looked at areas that they could peel back, and if you recall, we had a lot of discussions about the need for real infrastructure improvements in that building. We did a lot of work that was not aesthetics type things. There were structural issues, and so public safety team did a really nice job of prioritizing, and a couple of their, I wouldn't say wish lists because the items are really pretty important to the operation, but deemed less important maybe than some of the others. So when the department heads were tasked with providing a list, public safety then put forward roughly $100,000. While we were talking about the best way to bring it forward, the agenda for tonight appeared, and I appreciate the carve-out for their $100,000 because it was something that Trustee Anderson and I intended to bring after talking with Director Bassett at our next meeting, which could have been too late. So appreciate the removal of at least one item, and we can continue to consider others, but as Treasurer Elliott pointed out, if the money isn't earmarked and then the process of bidding and so forth by the end of the year, we lose it altogether. So this was a good list. Again, I'm not going to be completely satisfied, but that's really what compromise is all about. Everyone leaves with slight dissatisfaction in the list. So to have the preservation of the public safety carve-out is much appreciated, and we'll bring that forward, I believe, at the next meeting.
Yeah, and just for the capital plans for each department, again, Vicki, I'm looking at you. I think our capital plan yearly is 50+ million in projects that's on everybody's wish list. So we're open to discussing them, and we'll bring them forward. And again, I think we accomplished in part the goal that I wanted to do tonight, at least get it for discussion. Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Demink, for making that motion. I'd like to address, I had all of those items in there, but as was previously stated, this is what, when a board works together, we come up with some solutions here that work, that we all have something we like and probably all have something we wish could have been in there, but I do support this motion. Thank you.
Clerk Bear.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Just so that the board's aware, whether or not we want to reallocate any of these funds toward this need, it is a need that we did include when we were asked for our department's needs, what we might request from the ARPA funds. Our electronic poll books, which we received on a grant from the state almost 10 years ago now, have reached the end of their useful life. We did submit, I believe it was a $18,000 request to replace those after this election has been completed, as we will be required to, well, it will be necessary to do that because they have reached the end of their useful life. We're limping them along, but technology has outpaced you know, the amount of the use that we have for them. So we need to upgrade those. Again, it's an $18,000 expense. Whether or not we would reallocate some of these funds, or just so the board is aware that will be a request from the elections department at some point this year to replace those. They are absolutely necessary. It's how we issue ballots in precinct for our voters. In addition to that, we did also request, or at least put in, a capital improvement plan for a records management project that would involve digitizing some of our records so that they would be available to the public 24/7 through a public portal. I understand that that's a priority of some of the board members as well. Again, not asking that any of these funds be allocated to that, but just so that the board is aware and the public is aware that we did make those requests, and we may be bringing those forward to the board in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Trustee Anderson.
Yeah, thank you. You know, some of the things that are left over, or maybe not included on the wish list, I think the discussion is we have to tie everything down by the end of the year here, and perhaps some of the projects for the senior citizens can be included that have been passed over. That might not be, well, I have to wait for grants. Something else we talked about 5 years ago was the Phragmites issue we have in this township, the official township plant. And perhaps we can look at different means of mitigating that problem besides putting, spraying it with, paying the county, which part of the board did here, to get rid of these things, and God knows what it's doing to the wildlife, the honeybees and that. That's something else that hopefully we can look at before the end of the year. Thank you.
Any further comments? Treasurer Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. There were comments tonight, and I also had sent an email regarding the comments brought up about Pollard Park and the disarray of the Pollard Park. But I have also brought up in an email about the state of all of the township's playgrounds, and the ADA, need for ADA compliance, and the need for updates, painting, different needs there. I know that we had talked about assessing that and possibly using the ARPA funds to get some of that work done. Supervisor, what is the progress of that?
Of which particular?
Both the playgrounds, and then also I know that you've had a lot of discussions about Pollard Park as well.
Well, at Pollard Park, there is a makeover that needs to take place. The fields need to be redesigned. We have drainage issues up there. Fencing needs to be replaced. Dugouts need to be replaced. There's several capital plans or designs that have been presented. We haven't moved forward with them yet. They're in the works still. As far as Connie Bowles Park, that is in concept design to a certain degree. That there was a board approved back previously some years ago, a developer that was supposed to do some improvements at that park. We've begun that funding. You secured some funding from a local charitable group, the Rotary, to improve that, so that is in design. Playground, playscapes, they are in constant need of repair, and we do need upgrading on them. So all of those would be encompassed in all of this, all these funds.
Okay.
Did I answer it, or did I miss something?
Yeah, I think we're doing an assessment. I know Facilities and Operations was doing an assessment on the playgrounds, and I know that that's a liability issue, and these are areas where our kids are playing. So those are things that are important to me, whether they're ARPA funds or they are in the budget. I guess that was what I was hoping. If we're not going to use ARPA
Yeah.
funds for them, do we have something carved out in the budget for them?
We can work towards that, definitely. Further comments, questions?
I just wanted to remind everyone that we did put in a grant for Pollard Park that we're waiting on.
Thank you. Any further discussion? So I have a motion by trustee Demink, supported by trustee Anderson, to approve item 10G with the removal of the engineering fees, construction of bridge over Salt River at Pollard Park.
No, that's for later date. Didn't trustee Joseph second
Trustee
that?
Joseph, I'm sorry, I wrote it down wrong.
Yeah.
Motion by trustee Demink, supported by trustee Joseph. Clerk Barry.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Clerk Barry, no.
Item 10H.
Item 10H is to approve a request by IT to proceed with Able Electronics for cameras at Pollard Park, Town Hall, and Brandenburg Park in an amount not to exceed $95,954.26.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve. Is there any support? Support. Trustee Joseph. Some background again prior to Karen's going to address. This is something we've been working on a long time. We were waiting for the, obviously, the renovations at Public Safety and the Dispatch Center to open up their video wall. The plan and moving forward will be to live camera feeds from Pollard Park, Township Hall, and Brandenburg Park. And in light of what Director Vanison brought to us earlier, and some tragic events, and I hate to mention it because I don't want to ever happen here, but it just allows our public safety department to have live feed video to our parks and the events that occur there. And we have had a couple of tragedies here, even in the spring, that can't say that it would have made a difference, but it would have helped. So with that being said, Karen, I hope I didn't step on your toes, but please go ahead.
Nope, that's great, thank you. So this would be the addition of 7 cameras at Pollard Park. And I apologize. This is a collaboration with, working with IT and facilities, so bear with me here. We would have multiple cameras at Brandenburg Park, which was at the main entry gate, the exit, the building, the splash pad, on the pier, at the boat launches, and again, like Supervisor Kersten said, it would be all live feeded to the police department so that they can see what's going on at all times. We would also be adding some additional cameras here at Township Hall so that we could see who's coming and going in case there are any issues here, whether it be during work hours, be after hours. We can see the vehicles coming and going. We are also looking at adding a camera that's not listed on this, but in the same area as the entrance, so that we can shine it towards the historical village.
Questions from the board? Trustee Joseph?
Yeah, I just wanted to share, I got a text message from a resident who, I was actually a little surprised that I got it regarding this agenda item, and the sentiment was Big Brother, that there was a problem with cameras in general, and through the discussion, I think I was able to bring some new light to that individual, and so anybody else that may have a concern about the cameras and what we're doing, we've had at least 5 incidents that I can think of where cameras at that location would have been extremely helpful. We had not too long ago a tremendous amount of vandalism and damage. We have put considerable money into the capital improvements, and there's no doubt that the cameras add a layer of deterrent effect. People have a tendency to, not act in the same way when their actions are being broadcast to the PD. The one that we spent a lot of time talking about with Chief Miller and Director Bassett was the unfortunate involvement of 2 jet skiers that were in a real bad situation, and we had all kinds of family arriving at the park, at the scene, just as a sort of a meeting place, and trying to coordinate without having eyes out there, was difficult. So this cameras really provide a lot of solutions to problems that we literally we're blind out there unless we have somebody on the ground with a communication device back to the PD. We could have real and we have had real problems out there. So this is a nice investment, and I think it is kind of overdue, and I'm glad that it's here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further? Trustee Domingue?
I agree. I think it's a great idea, especially with everything that's occurred, and especially some of the places being remote as Pollard, Brandenburg at night when nobody around, and then here at the offices, especially with the drop boxes. So, yep. I mean, everybody's putting surveillance cameras in everywhere, homes, everywhere else. So I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? Any further comments? I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Trustee Joseph, to approve item 10H. Clerk Berry?
Supervisor Kersten?
Yes.
Trustee Joseph?
Aye.
Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
Trustee Domingue?
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg?
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott?
Aye.
Clerk Berry? Aye.
Item 10I.
Item 10I is a recommendation to adopt resolution number 2024-15, Oakland Macomb Interceptor Drainage District, prepayment of construction of a new corrosion control and odor mitigation system in the amount of $554,583.
Is there a motion to approve? Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve. Is there support?
I'll support.
Trustee Vosberg?
Hi, hello. This is from the Oakland Macomb Interceptor Drain District. They are doing construction on a new corrosion control and odor mitigation system. The total cost of this project is $11,400,000. Chesterfield percentage of the project is 4.9783%. This amounts to $554,583. The resolution in front of you tonight is the prepayment of this amount.
Questions from the board? Clerk Berry?
Vicki, what's the advantage of prepaying?
So there's really not an option of whether we're going to pay for it or not. It's how we're going to pay for it, prepaying it or bonding it. There is a balance between the two of them, bonding. We currently have approximately 15 other bonds from sewer type things. You have to balance how many bonds you have on your books versus cash flow in your cash statement. This one, the interest rate, they won't know what the interest rate will be until obviously they sell the bonds. They're predicting it to be about 4%. When you bond something, and I know it's $500,000 is a lot of money to myself and to you, but for this fund, that has a cash balance of approximately, let me grab that. $13,119,000 at year end. It's a balance of saying, how much do we have on cash? Do we want to pay for bond closing costs, interest, you know, and once you've signed up for the bond, you're stuck with that interest rate for the entire 20 years of it.
So my secondary question is, what is the interest rate we're currently earning on that account?
So interest rates vary, 4 to 5% on some of the CDs and J funds that we're doing. But then on top of the interest that we would be paying for it, we would have, again, the closing costs and whatnot, which is over and above that interest rate.
So have we done the financial analysis on that and determined that the prepayment would be, we would be more financially advantaged to do the prepayment and give up whatever interest we're earning on those funds now rather than the costs associated with bonding it out?
Right, so if the average is 4 to 5% earning on investment versus 4% cost, so there's that, but then additional, you have the additional cost of the closing costs and the bond counsel. There's a lot of fees that go into having a bond issuance. And then addition to that, you have to look at like rating agencies and how are they gonna look at the financial statements? Whether, you know, at the back of the book, if you keep having all these different bonds there, larger bonds, it does impact.
Thank you.
Further questions? Trustee Joseph?
Yeah, the bond repayment is kind of spelled out in the letter that we all received, and it's pretty clear. You're looking at 4 to 5 interest, and you're looking at a guaranteed minimum of 4% plus closing costs. I think it's pretty obvious that we prepay. And the option of not paying or paying isn't an option. We are part of the drainage district, and we have representation on the drainage district. The district votes for projects and approves projects. We have a voice there, and we do this in concert with all of the neighboring communities that are part of the drainage district. So we could not afford some of these without a pooled sort of resource. When we entered into that, we enter into all of the voted upon improvements, capital outlays, and we have a percentage of that. So this isn't an approval. I know that sometimes on social media I'll see somebody will post the board spent another $6 million or $500,000. This is one of those expenses that we're just voting on whether we prepay or whether we do it in installments, because we made the decision years and years ago to be part of the drainage district, and this is part of that agreement. So I vote for the prepay. I think it's pretty clear, and I appreciate the workup that's been done to show why it's in our best interest to prepay that. Thank you.
It's always interesting, Trustee Joseph, when you do get these letters and you read them and you're like, guess what? We got a $500,000 project, and you have exactly what you said. You got an option. You can bond it and let us bond it, or you're paying it. And there really isn't much discussion after that. So, again, we did thank you, Vicki, for sitting down and educating me on this. And yeah, the bottom line is you're going to pay. Any further questions? I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Trustee Vosberg, to approve item 10I. Clerk Berry.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott. Aye. Clerk Berry. Aye.
Item 11, addendums, there are none. Item 12, public comments. Public comments, there is a 3-minute time limit, and if you would, again, please state your name for the record, just so we can track it. It is not required. The mic is open.
Joe Kadich, live on Sutton. It's strange that this payment for this issue for the bonds just came up, or for the whatever treatment plant is going to be. It falls right in line with what the ARPA funds were designed for. Yet you choose to spend all the ARPA money on the Parks and Rec. Just as though you chose when we needed repair and upgrading of our own infrastructure, the sewers and water. You've spent nothing in your whole entire terms here on sewer and water, and it showed when we had the flood. And it still shows you haven't done anything to upgrade the system. When it rains out here, I run down on my basement to see what the hell I'm going to get, if I'm going to get flooded out again. It cost me $35,000 to repair my basement from that flood from August. Yet you've done nothing to assure me that things are going to be repaired and we're not going to happen again. And it's not only me, it's people up and down the streets that run off of Jefferson. And the other thing, I don't know if everybody gets the voice or whether they get on the online voice, but when you sold the lagoon, or gave the lagoon into Conservancy last week, I brought up the subject of it's worth money. That lagoon, and you didn't do any checking to see if it, what it was, or if it was developed, it could be worth probably maybe $9 million. And the only reason you gave it up is because Selfridge wants it, has always wanted it, and had it assigned as a crash site. They wanted it preserved to that. Everything goes out for Selfridge, and no consideration for the people here. Now, that could have been sold. If you got $6 or $8 million for that, that would have gone a long way to getting back and repair our infrastructure. And they could keep it the same way. They could keep it vacant. That's all they wanted. And yet you gave it to them. And that whole, for people's information, we had comments in the voice, the Supervisor Kersten and I, about that issue. And one of the complaints I had is Selfridge has been on a tear. They want to expand for the last 5 years. They wanted to get F-35s out here. I have a problem with it, and I expected that at least he and Supervisor Kersten before him would alert the people of Chesterfield, lay out what happens to it when we got it. They had a plan out there, what their master plan was. They had a environmental impact study that people would all know what would happen if the F-35s hit here. And on top of it now, the base commander just announced that they're going to extend the runway about 1,000 feet north into Chesterfield, and nobody's saying anything about that. How that's going to, you know what's going to happen to.
Time's up. Time's up. Thank you very much. I did. Yep, thank you.
Christopher Pierrick, Chesterfield Township. I'm going to talk about a couple agenda items. Agenda item G. Thanks again for not listening to the residents on this one. Clearly, none of these items were brought up by residents that they wanted it, just the board. At least the majority of the residents that spoke. So thanks again for not listening. On the priority waste transfer to that contract, back when GFL was voted in as our contract, or our waste hauler contract, it was the board majority agreed to bring them in, but tonight, Supervisor Kersten, you said that priority is going to give us the same service or even better. So why didn't we go with priority in the beginning? Why didn't we do that in November when we were looking at a new provider for the community? Yesterday, there was a town hall at the community center for the seniors. Great job with that. It was great to see that we want to listen to what the public has to say, what the public wants. So I thought that was really good and positive. Some things that were brought up yesterday, there was a need for new toilets, new floors, new doors for the front entrance, and chairs for the residents to sit down in. Where's that money going to come from? Is that part of the renovations that were already planned, or that's new money that we're going to have to come up with? And then something interesting I found out, or I thought of, is that meeting was open to seniors 55 and over. So, but if I go to Brandenburg Park and I want to buy a pass and I want to be a senior, I have to be 62 or over. Where's the consistency in that? I did go there, I did buy a pass. I paid the senior price, senior resident price for that pass. I wasn't asked for ID to see if I was a senior or if I was a resident, so no consistency at that gate. So personally, I think that residents shouldn't have to pay to go to Brandenburg Park. I think that each household should get a pass mailed to their house for at least one of their vehicles, but that's just my thought. Thank you.
That button? My name is Roger McCollum, I'm a resident of Chesterfield Township, and I'm here with a statement from concerned citizens, and just as evidence I'm not by myself, a few other citizens came with me. If they want to stand up and show you their presence, don't be shy, folks. Anyways, on August 24, 2023, myself, Barbara Lohman, Ray Lohman, Terry Carroll, Lorraine Bowman, and Martin Davison filed criminal complaint number 2023-2078 with Detective Sergeant Anderson of the Chesterfield Township Police Department. The complaint included evidence that shows that our voting records are being changed in Lansing. Cindy Berry had a meeting with a group of us last year. She invited us into her office, and she said she was going to show us where the voting fraud was really happening. She didn't show us anything. Blue smoke as far as I'm concerned, as far as the group was concerned. We were told that the investigation was assigned to a Detective Bonk. Keeping in mind I gave this information personally to Detective Sergeant Anderson. And I made at least 9 calls from August of 25 to October 20th, August 25, 23, until October 20th of 23. I never received a call back from Detective Bonk, who was the investigating detective. Where is he? There he is. Hi. You're one of your officers, right? Frustrated, really frustrated. Election integrity activist Scott Ogden and I went down to the New Baltimore Police Station in early November, and we were told that the investigating detective had closed the case. Never contacted any of the people that complained. If you have a complainant that's filed a case, should you at least ask them what they're talking about? I personally believe that the investigator probably called Lori Bourbonnais, Secretary of State and Bureau of Elections, and they were told, oh, this is nothing, it'll go away. They're the ones we want investigated. And Lansing is where they committed a crime. Cindy Berry did her job. When she gave me my voting record, it was accurate. When Scott Ogden FOIA'd the voting record from the state of Michigan, I compared it to what Cindy gave me. They were different. Tell me there's no fraud in elections. I got black and white evidence right here. If anybody wants it, I'll give it to you. Highlighted, annotated graphs. I turned it all in. It got dropped. Why, officer? Why wasn't it investigated? Let me ask you this. I know you can't answer questions. I'm going to give you a hypothetical. Everyone in the room, if your nephew was run over by a truck and Sam was arrested for that crime, would you want Sam's uncle, no pun in words there, would you want Sam's uncle to be the investigating officer?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Barbara Lohman, Chesterfield Township. This is also regarding voter fraud. We have evidence from whistleblowers that discredit statements Bureau of Election Supervisor Lori Bourbonnais has previously made to the Isabella County Prosecutor, David Barbary, and to other law enforcement agencies. A group meeting may be warranted to help you understand the extreme duplicity of what we believe is happening and evidence that supports our assertion that unlawful activities are being implemented against our election records and rights guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution, common law, and Michigan compiled law. In addition, we have since acquired new quote-unquote updated copies of our voting change histories, again from our clerk, where a significant column of data had been deleted or concealed. Evidence shows this was done by unannounced report design, by the Office of the Secretary of State, Bureau of Elections. Pete Lucido has stated publicly and to Roger McCauley personally at the monthly Macomb County Republican meeting that if these cases make it to his desk, that he will prosecute them. We're in the process of building a coalition of law enforcement agencies statewide, and we are hoping Chesterfield will be a part of that. If you continue to ignore our request for processing our complaints and submitting them to the Office of the Macomb County Prosecutor, we will be forced to pursue criminal charges against the Office of the Chesterfield Township Police Department. In closing, we demand that you investigate this. Thank you.
Scott Ogney. I'm a resident of Jackson County, Leone Township, a suburb of the Jackson Metroplex in southern Michigan. I am, amongst other things, I am an unpaid election whistleblower. I've been investigating election records for approximately 3.5 years. And I'm involved with the complainants in this township, and I did attend a meeting at Chesterfield Police Department. The locus standi investigations is what's going on here, and we are investigating unlawful alterations and, in some parts, unlawful destruction of public election records. We are not investigating local clerks. As a matter of fact, we're not investigating anybody in this county. The evidence points that the perpetrators of these crimes are in Lansing. I'd like to outline three criminal statutes that are the subject of these investigations. MCL 750.248, which is making, altering, forging, or counterfeiting public records, specific to altering public records. That's the first crime. 750.483, specific to Section 5, prohibited acts. You cannot conceal evidence being used in a public proceeding, including criminal investigations. And the Michigan Bureau of Elections has been complicit in hiding evidence. MCL 168.932C. This is specific to prohibited conduct in elections, and it includes that you cannot destroy records that are supposed to be lawfully retained, and you cannot tell somebody to do that, which is what the Secretary of State and the Michigan Bureau of Elections has done. There are a couple federal statutes I'm not going to go into because I'm going to read the statutes that are applicable to the Director of the Chesterfield Department of Public Safety. MCL 168.941, peace officers, duty to institute proceedings. This law means if they bring an election crime to your attention, you've got to investigate it, and you have to do it to the best of your ability. MCL 752.11, this one's a criminal statute. You must uphold or enforce the law, the duty of public officials. That also includes clerks. MCL 754.78, willful neglect of duty by a public officer or person holding public trust or employment. That's a criminal statute. 750.505, this is a felony. It is a common law crime, and this is outlined by the Michigan Municipal League as well. The township attorney can probably verify this. This is an ethics issue, misconduct in office by public officers. The Michigan statute that calls for the punishment of this offense is MCL 750.505. And it includes up to 5 years in jail, up to $10,000 fine, or both. I'm going to leave copies of all these, and the final one, MCL 764.16, arrest by private person. In other words, a public arrest, and that includes for the common law offense as well. So he's subject to felony crimes. I petition the Director of Public Safety to reopen these election investigations as the law calls for. Thank you.
Sir.
Hi, my name is Kyle Zakar. I live at 49120 Stratford Drive. I wanted to get up here because I heard Clerk Barry say she was fighting for the Constitution, and I really, really greatly appreciate that. And I'm begging all of you to do the same thing this November. And that's it. God bless you, and thank you.
Hi, I'm Alan Christ. I live on Donahue here in Chesterfield Township. I didn't get up and speak the first time. I kind of regret it, so I just want to come up and say thank you for the funding for Parks and Rec on the improvements that you guys are going to be doing. It's a great way to give back to the entire community. And I also, maybe I'm alone in this, but I'm glad we bought Sugar Bush Elementary School because that would have made a huge development. The district was going to sell that school, and it was going to turn into another subdivision. And if you think our infrastructure is bad now, why don't they put another 50, 60 homes back there? So I'm glad you guys are doing what you're doing. Thanks.
Further comments from the public? Bring it back up to the board. Trustee Joseph. No.
I'm going to wait until
okay. Slow.
John Speaker, Chesterfield Township. Good evening, residents. My name is John Speaker, and I'm running for treasurer. I encourage every eligible voter in the township to vote on August 6th. Everybody keeps mentioning November. The important election for the 3 top spots in this election are going to be August 6th for the supervisor, the treasurer, and the clerk. In the private sector, employees get a performance review yearly. So that means every year I get a performance review. In government, our elected officials that you've seen here tonight get a performance review every 4 years. So their performance review is going to be this year. Treasurer Elliott, I have a question for you. You mentioned that the summer tax bill, the 2024 tax bill, was going to be out this week. My question is my summer tax bill going to be correct when it comes out? Because the winter tax bills that you put out, several of them, were incorrect. In my opinion, Supervisor Kersten, Treasurer Elliott, Trustee Vosberg, and Trustee Demink should be replaced on this board. They've limited your ability to come to this podium and speak to 3 minutes on all agenda items. You used to be able to come to this podium and speak on every agenda item up to 5 minutes. They've taken that away from you. You know why they took that away from you? Because they don't want to hear what the residents have to say. And it's quite evident, meeting after meeting after meeting, that this continues. It's a pack. They've, over 90% of the time, they all vote together, and they vote for things like a sewer line on the north end that benefits the wealthy and well-connected. They took over a sewer line on the northwest end that there were other municipalities that would have been responsible for the repairs. They didn't take the advice of legal counsel and accepted that. They took possession of the community center, Sugar Bush Elementary, a 50-year-old dilapidated building at $2.8 million that needs anywhere from $10 to $13 million in repair. My opinion is Chesterfield deserves better. Our residents deserve. We could have put a new building up for you guys, a state-of-the-art building for this community. But that's not what we have up there now. And this will be your opportunity this year to replace them with people that actually care about this community. And I encourage every one of you on August 6th to replace these 4 and vote them out. They have got to go. Thank you.
Any further comments from the public?
Mike, the bus stop guy, back again. In my informal role, I recently received a recap of the changes that will soon take place to most of the bus stops between Marketplace Boulevard, which is the little cutoff at the end of our boundary there, to 23 Mile Road. According to the plan that I have printed in my possession, 5 of those bus stops of the existing ones will be removed, 5 will be relocated, and 1 new full-size shelter will be added north of 22 Mile Road, eliminating the stop south of 22, you know, the big no man's land with the big concrete blocks. That's going to go away. So it'll be replaced with a proper stop north of 22. Benches will also be added to a number of stops, and all stops will have a concrete pad so that you can actually walk on concrete from the bus stop to the bus instead of sloshing through mud and water and everything like we've done in the past. Now, these changes resulted from a meeting between the township and SMART back in November of 2023, supported by Senator Kevin Hertel, who was very supportive of it. And it was a discussion of the use, interestingly enough, of ARPA funds. Karen Garby actually has done a great job helping me get together the information for this. She sent to me a item by item, actually stop by stop review of what those changes would be. And I want to thank her for her interest in this. Actually, I must say, and Karen, I don't think you'll be mad at me, Karen really thought we should have a shelter at every bus stop. You know, I mean, do we really have to sit in, but that's not reasonable, and we know that. So anyway, the detail of this really is that 71% of the riders are going to businesses here in Chesterfield. We can't forget that, you know. How about our businessmen? We have all those, as I mentioned earlier, we have all those now hiring signs, and they're being filled by 71% of the people that ride the buses. It's just amazing to me that nobody really seems to care at all about the employees that are coming to work in our businesses here. Something doesn't seem to ring right to me. A good thing that's also coming up to help a little bit is we're going to be, and this may be off a bit, we're going to have, oh my goodness, I don't believe it. Thank you very much. Talk faster next time, Meg.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Shane Sellers. I live at 46310 Jasmine Court here in Chesterfield Township. First, we'd just like to start out saying our Red Wings fans in the room remember the Red Wings record after getting the priority waist patch on their uniforms. We now know who to blame for not making the playoffs. So I just thought that was funny. It's too bad the gentleman left. First, I would just like to say, unlike their other residents up here, you will not see me campaigning from the podium or wearing T-shirts or pins campaigning inside the boardroom, where there's actual business to conduct here. This room is for official business of the board, not for personal insults and outright campaigning from the public comment podium. It's incredibly inappropriate, and as someone who has sat on your side of the table in Lance Cruz, I can tell you I have made sure it's gavelled down when candidates come to our meetings and try and pull that crap at the podium. Half the time, they're not even talking to the board, they're facing and pontificating to the audience, which is not the purpose of public comment at all. I hope it stops, and I have a feeling many of you board members do as well. Now onto the business of the township. I think a lot has been discussed recently about our seniors and both the location of their programming, as well as what programs we can offer them. I want to thank Supervisor Kersten for spearheading the town hall, as well as Trustee DeMink and Trustee Joseph, and Director Vanderson for serving on that panel. I think everyone in this room can agree that offering a great space for our seniors and providing ample funding, staffing, and programming is what we all want for our seniors and that reside here in the township. I think political tensions and rumors have really gotten in the way of what we all want, and that's to provide the best senior-centered programs we could possibly offer them. This is not a political issue unless people choose to make it one. I used to run the Clinton Township Senior Center's pickleball and tennis programs at Peachtree Tennis Club, which is one of the largest pickleball programs in the Metro Detroit area. From my experience, all they want is to enjoy their offerings and that you fund, and for everyone to get out of the way with their politicking. Again, I want to thank everyone for their dedication to the seniors and for being upfront and honest with them about their temporary move to Sugarbush Elementary and then returning here once renovations are complete. If we can simply fund their programs, provide them the space, staffing, and programs they need, and then get out of their way so they can enjoy themselves, I think that is what's in the best interest of everyone involved. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a comment before we end for the night. First of all, thank you again for the focus on the parks. I do appreciate that, again, that we're thinking about the recreational aspects. I will also nod to our treasurer when she mentioned about the playgrounds. And again, as I take a look at my neighborhood, the children need a place in that park. They need a place where they can play, they can be safe, and they can just find something to be able to just exercise different options. So I'm happy to hear that we're moving more that way to be able to develop that area, so thank you again. I also liked to just give a compliment. You all came together in terms of as a board when looking at that particular motion, and I'd like to say I am glad to hear that we did think about injecting some funds for our police department and fire because they do service our community greatly. So I'd like to hear that as well. And then just to speak on behalf of the clerk, because I began my career of sorts in public service with Cindy Berry, learning how to work those electronic polling machines and all of that stuff. So can we also look, I will applaud to say we need money for the electronic books. I can say that as well. So I just wanted to state that also. And then I have a comment here from a fellow resident, being the team player that I am. And I was handed a comment, which I can agree, that is a major concern and is recommended that Chesterfield Township improve ADA ramps. And I think that's fair, I can mention that, and construct connecting sidewalks. And I'll just answer that myself to say, I had a great meeting actually with our township supervisor and also the treasurer last week, and we talked about the GAP program in terms of how that works and what we're doing in terms of the sidewalks. Thank you for explaining that. And actually, when we sat there, I was able to point out a business in Carriage Way, and immediately our supervisor said, let's get Karen in here, let's talk about who the business is, and let's see what we can do to get them a letter about that sidewalk. So that was a progress in action. So again, I just want to stress that we can unify and we can do more when we try to find a common ground. Local politics is about roads, it's about schools, it's about playgrounds. That's what it's about. It's about things that the local residents need. It doesn't have to be about party. It doesn't have to be about name calling. We can do and find ways to come together a little bit more. So I just wanted to state that. Thank you.
Good evening, Janice Young. I just got a list of stuff I want to throw out there, some follow-ups to some things. The lagoon appraisal, Supervisor Kersten, I emailed you for the appraisal value on that. I've spoke to you twice in person on that. It's been 2 weeks. I understand you're very busy, but I don't think that should be that hard to get that value out to us. Clerk Berry, you had mentioned there's an update to the voter guide coming. I don't think you covered that earlier, so I just hope you still cover that now. Also, I asked at the senior meeting yesterday about the Parks and Rec millage, is that a rumor or is that something that's going to happen? That was never addressed at the senior meeting yesterday, so that's still an outstanding question, if that Parks and Rec millage is going to be used to renovate Sugarbush Elementary School. The GFL contract was not put out to bid last year, Trustee Joseph. There was no bid process, but you did say that tonight. There was no bid process done. And then also on the November 14th, 23 meeting, the contract for GFL, the extension, was included in the agenda item. So there's no reason why that First Amendment couldn't have been included tonight. There shouldn't have been anything confidential about it if the original extension was included in the agenda packet. Also, I'd like to ask the clerk if we could add the agenda item to the agenda attachments so that when we print them out, that it corresponds to the agenda. I've spoke to several residents while out in the community and have witnessed it myself. Our ditches are a mess. There's standing water in the majority of them. I've seen weeds. I mean, it's obviously an ongoing problem. But what I've also been hearing from the residents is they have flooding on their property. They said they've been here for 20, 25, 30 years, have never had flooding on their property. In the last year or two, they have flooding, substantial flooding. What has changed? Where's that water coming from? Why isn't it being mitigated? If we can do a sidewalk program, like we've been doing going through each community year by year, can we do a ditch program? I know it takes the county effort, we have to partner with the county, or they're involved, but why are we not making that a priority? We obviously have a water flow problem here, and there's residents that need help. And older residents can't dig those ditches and clear them out themselves. And I have seen even just trash debris blocking the culverts. They need attention, and residents may need the nudge. I don't know what the answer is, but there needs to be more attention paid to that. Also, the ARPA funds, just for the record, were given to this township in 2021, so the big rush to spend them now is a joke, because you've had 3 years to spend this money to account for it and spend it. So I just wanted to put that out there. And then also, there's some violation of the code ordinances going out there with all the campaign signs on the trail. Some of the board members up there and some of the people in this room are in direct violation of the code ordinance repeatedly. I've been in touch with Gary DeMaster about that. He said signs are being pulled, but it doesn't seem that they're being pulled equally. Just want to put that out there. And Trustee Joseph, you like to say that I'm campaigning up here, and I am not campaigning up here. What I have done at this podium for the last year and a half is what I've been consistently doing. Nothing has changed with that. So you can say that I'm campaigning, you know, whatever you want to say up there, but I am not. I am here because I'm protecting my home and my community. That is my only interest. That has been my interest from day one, and it has nothing to, when I come up here, that's all it's about. Thank you.
Any further comments? I'm not going to play your game. Start with Trustee Joseph tonight. Let's start with you.
Okay. Yeah, lot of questions that I just won't be able to answer in the 3 minutes, but I appreciate the comments about, you know, not campaigning here, that the podium is not for campaigning, and the issues that are raised when they're public service and interest-based are not campaigning, but when sweeping statements about the entire board this and the entire board that, it seems an awful lot like campaigning. And the never-ending, the insatiable quest for conspiracies, and I try very hard to answer any questions that are posed to me. When a question was posed, I didn't have the answer, and I said that I would follow up. I follow up, and I say, this is the answer to the question that you asked, and then I go down this rabbit hole, and the response that I got was, well, that wasn't my real question. My real question was, I can't begin to answer all of these in 3 minutes, and I don't have an issue with you, and I don't take any issue with any comment that's made at a podium, but you just as a bit of advice, take it or leave it. I know the pressure that's attached when you want something very badly, when you want to be on the board, as you clearly do. The sense is that, you know, there's a fight at every corner, and the complaints about yard signs, and it's across the board. You can't put signs in a property where you don't have the owner's permission, yet we see that. You can't put signs just randomly in a field somewhere, yet we see that. It becomes impossible for code enforcement to get in there and do that in an equitable way that's going to satisfy everybody. Trustee Demink, you called me. You got a call, like I didn't think that my sign was that close to the, but you know, and it was a safety issue for him. He went out and removed the sign, and that's typically what we try to do. But when people go to the podium and they announce that they're not campaigning over and over and over again, I wonder who they're trying to convince, themselves or the audience. So the comments about the coming together at the senior center is something that I've done my entire time on this board. We put together coalitions for water rate, for police layoff moratoriums, for ARPA meetings, for any number of things, and we've been able to come together at times when it was critical. The senior center is one of those, and I'm real proud to be on that. I just had one additional comment, if I may, regarding the comments on the and the concerns about the election whistleblower. I was really studying and trying to follow, And what I would like to do is I'd like to talk with our township attorney, because I couldn't understand the nexus between local law enforcement jurisdiction over something which it sounded as if there was a belief that the crime alleged was perpetrated on a level outside of this jurisdiction. So I'm just trying to understand it, and I'll research it a little bit more. Yes, I'll research it a little bit more, and I'd like to go to our attorney and find the nexus between our obligation to, enforce this, and I can see you nodding and you have some more information. I'm anxious to hear it, but I know that the speaker, that one of them that got up, that even suggested that there could be a complaint brought against the Township Police Department. I'm a little stunned by that. This is an individual that I've known through the Friends of Chesterfield Police, and she's a very, very firm advocate of our police department. So I know that there's some seriousness to her concerns, and I'd like to find a little bit more about what and why we are doing or not doing an investigation. So thank you for bringing that forward, and I'll go to work and try to understand that issue a little bit better. Thank you.
Trustee Anderson.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. Stay focused, stay civil. We got 42 days until Election Day to the primary. It's not scorched earth in the process getting there. And a week and a half or so, enjoy the 4th of July breaks with your family and whatever. Thank you.
Trustee Domingue.
I'd like to thank everybody that showed up tonight for the meeting. I think the senior town hall yesterday went well. Trustee Joseph, we've sort of had some long talks lately, and getting along very well after 12 years of battling up here, and then David was battling me before he got up here. So, but it's good to have a good working relationship and talking about issues and making things work, especially for the seniors. With regards to the police department, I believe in the investigation department and that they do a good job. It's criminal investigations and it's classified. We're not allowed to get involved. I know more about criminal investigations than probably everybody out there except Director Baskett, the supervisor, Trustee Anderson, and Trustee Joseph, from all of us being in the law enforcement fields. They handle that. It's not part of us. That's their investigation. I trust what Director Bassett does. Regarding the drains, the county owns the drains. We know there's a lot of drainage issues. The county's the one that cleans them out, especially like Fish Creek. I had to talk with the supervisor the other day, talk to me about the Meldrum drain over by, what's the name of that car dealership now, Shea? Because of all the water. Those big county drains have to be cleaned out by the Drain Commission. That's Candace Miller and those people over there. They maintain the drains, just like the roadways, county. And then the subdivisions have their own retention ponds. And lastly, thank you for the nice comments, Mr. Speaker. I know how you always like to address the four of us and call us out. And I appreciate those comments, and I hope you have a good day. But I'm just going to tell you one thing. People who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And I'll end it with that.
Trustee Vosper.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I want to thank the people tonight who were appointed to boards and commissions, Alan Christ, Lisa Minter, Anthony Bonk, and Shaun Caplis. They are, in my opinion, true heroes because they work to make a difference in a formal way. I know many of us here, probably everyone in this room, has done something to make a difference in our community, but I appreciate them for doing it in the formal way, and all the other members of our boards and commissions. Thank you.
Treasurer Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I am very thankful and grateful to this board for recognizing the needs at the Connie Bowles Park. There has never been any sort of access to a playground or park on that side of I-94, and so it is good that we are acknowledging that. I do hope that we continue to work on the Pollard Park needs. I know that everybody in this board has talked about that at various board meetings. You will hear me mention playground equipment township-wide over and over and over again, and will not let the board forget the needs for that. I have grandchildren who live in the township, and repeatedly hear that the moms in the township are leaving the township because of the lack of access to proper playground equipment here, and so that is important to me. I want to thank the Anchor Bay Chamber. Thank you, Lisa, for the great things that you do in the community. I want to thank you and all of the members of the chamber for supporting us in this fireworks, and last year also for your support. Regarding the senior center, I sat at the back of the room. I'll be 55 this year, and I've been over on this side, over by the seniors, and so I have a lot of relationships with many of the seniors. And some of the suggestions I would make to the committee in feedback that I have gotten would be possibly maybe hiring somebody to facilitate maybe a conversation amongst them without any elected officials in there. Also, I would suggest maybe we could partner with one of the schools to help them draw up some concepts and ideas. That is something I've heard done at other communities. So some feedback there. I hope that you'll take that back with you as you work on that committee. The sidewalks that are being addressed by Smart Bus. I was very happy to see that they were going to be having some sidewalk pads to get to the new bus stops. Just to give you an idea, I did pull up what you'll find on your tax collection bill. And the general fund here at the township in 2023 received a little over $1.5 million from the 2023 tax collection. Smart Bus received $1.9 million from Chesterfield residents in the 2023 tax collection. Thank you.
Clerk Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. First, Michelle Merriweather, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. When you are no longer a candidate, we will welcome you back to the ranks of the election workers in a moment, in a millisecond. You did great work for us, so thank you for that, and look forward to having you back. We miss you. Secondly, with regards to the updated voter guide that is coming out, we are working on that now and hope to have that out within the next week to 10 days. It's taking us a little bit longer because we had ballots come in and we needed to prioritize that. So, but we are working to get that out to you. There's a couple of changes that have been made to that. Also, some folks, they only vote every 4 years during usually even the general election or sometimes just the primary and the general, and aren't paying attention when we mailed that earlier this year. And so we're going to be getting that back out to folks with the changes and updates, as well as with Clerk Forlini's initiative and the event that we're going to be hosting to promote early voting. So a little more detail about early voting, and there's going to be specific instructions on how not to spoil your absentee ballot. It happens in increasing considerably more in an August primary. People don't realize they cannot choose candidates from both the Republican Party and the Democratic Party columns. And what happens is when they do that, it spoils that entire section of the ballot. So it's very, very important that folks don't disenfranchise themselves from their vote. And so we're going to be doing a considerable education with that regard as well, because that is something that we see happen more often in primaries, and we don't want anyone to be denied their voice when it comes to casting their ballot. And then, although Trustee Anderson kind of beat me to the 4th of July thing, I'll let him have that because I know he's a veteran and he's earned that. And part of the reason why we celebrate the 4th of July is because very brave people like Trustee Anderson helped pay some of that price. And so, but I'd just like to close my comments tonight with a quote by Ronald Reagan on why the 4th of July matters. He said, "Let the 4th of July always be a reminder that here in the land, for the first time, it was decided that man is born with certain God-given rights, that government is only a convenience created and managed by the people with no power of its own except those voluntarily granted to it by the people. We sometimes forget that great truth, and we never should. Happy 4th of July." Thank you.
Make some quick comments here. It's been a rough week in public safety, both in law enforcement and the fire service, both in Oakland County and here in Macomb County. So thoughts and prayers are with those two careers and the families involved with them. My approach to the ARPA funding has always been the greater good of the township and what serves the biggest need of our community when it comes to ARPA spending. Comment I made about the floods from last year, no, it has not been ignored. We've done almost a year of research, and in July there will be the first community meeting that will address one of the issues, areas of concern that I think has been neglected in this township for several years. It will address one of the retention detention ponds that are currently in this community that needs to be addressed, and we'll host a community meeting on that. The Connie Bowles Park concept has been mentioned a couple of times tonight. We're going to move forward with that. Obviously, we'll bring it back to the board. But that is a space in a park that has been in the township's inventory for some time, and nothing's really been done about it. And again, I said a developer was responsible for creating a parking lot there, and we're going to move forward with that. In regards to the priority transition from GFL, I just want everybody to understand fully, the GFL contract at the time was simply an extension, a 5-year extension, and in that extension, they lowered the cost. That lowered cost is now being accepted and assigned and assumed by Priority, who we've met with and we've discussed with, and you saw their presentation tonight. I think it's going to be a great partnership. I don't get the comments made about Parks and Rec hemorrhaging money. The general fund supports Parks and Rec and senior programming, so I'm not sure where that comes from. We'll continue to meet with the seniors. That was a great event. We'll improve on that moving forward. Again, another comment about the lagoons. We did not sell the lagoons. The lagoons are still owned by Chesterfield Township. We simply partnered with Six Rivers to create a long-term conservancy. And as I said earlier in that request for approval, one of the elements is, yes, it supports Selfridge Air Base and whatever their plans are and may be. They are deep, they are expansive, and very little of it is directed or released to us until there's some invite to a meeting that they provide us. Again, I'll defend I'm not sure about the complaint with the law enforcement for Sergeant Anderson and Detective Bonk. Again, great individuals. There's nothing there that the public safety would ever do to interfere with that. With that being said, I will make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting. Is there support? Support by Trustee Vosberg at 9:18.
All in favor?
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned.